Welcome to Module 1 of the Non-Residential Lighting Controls Training Series. This module will provide an overview of non-residential lighting control requirements contained in California's building energy efficiency standards, including an introduction to the technologies that will be discussed in this series, applications, requirements, and compliance documentation. In this module, we'll provide an overview of requirements pertaining to both the energy efficiency standards, or Title 24 Part 6, and the appliance efficiency regulations, or Title 20, lighting control devices and systems, compliance requirements and acceptance testing. We will also discuss the commissioning process. Let's begin by talking about the requirements pertaining to both the energy efficiency standards, or Title 24 Part 6, and the appliance efficiency regulations, or Title 20. Lighting controls and equipment installed in non-residential buildings must comply with the applicable requirements in sections 110.9, 130.0, 130.1, and 130.2 of the energy standards. Requirements apply to non-residential, high-rise residential, hotel, and motel buildings. These standards also reference device-specific requirements contained in section 1605.3 of the appliance efficiency regulations. Let's discuss lighting control devices and systems. For the purposes of the energy standards, lighting controls are separated into two categories: self-contained lighting controls and lighting control systems. Self-contained lighting controls are unitary lighting control modules that do not require any additional components to be fully functional. Self-contained lighting controls must be certified to the Energy Commission and listed in the Appliance Efficiency Database to be sold or offered for sale in California. If a self-contained lighting control is not certified to the Energy Commission, it cannot be used to comply with the energy standards. On the other hand, lighting control systems require two or more components to provide all of the functionality required to make up a fully functional and compliant lighting control. Lighting control systems do not need to be listed in the Appliance Efficiency Database. However, a Certificate of Installation NRCI-LTI-02-E must be submitted for an installed lighting control system or energy management control system to certify that it is in compliance with the energy standards. Both categories of lighting controls must meet specific performance and certification requirements contained in the energy standards and appliance efficiency regulations. If a lighting control product is intended to meet multiple control requirements under the energy standards, it must also meet multiple requirements under Title 20. For example, if an ultrasonic occupancy sensor is installed to comply with the shutoff control requirements contained in the energy standards, then it must comply with all the specific device requirements for an occupancy sensor contained in Title 20, Section 1605.3. If that same device also contains an integrated photo sensor and is intended to serve as part of daylighting control system, then it must also comply with all of the applicable requirements for a daylighting control contained in Title 20. Automatic time switch controls, daylighting controls, dimmers, and occupant sensing controls must meet mandatory device requirements contained in Section 110.9 of the Energy Standards, as well as requirements contained in Section 1605.3 of the Appliance Efficiency Regulations. Now let's introduce the 5 types of mandatory indoor lighting controls required under the Energy Standards. Outdoor controls will be discussed in Module 7 of this series. The first type of mandatory lighting controls are area controls. Those are manual on-off controls that separately control lighting in each area. An area is any space enclosed by ceiling height partitions or walls. These controls form the primary layer of any lighting control system. Area controls have been required under the energy standards since their inception in 1978. The second control layer consists of multi-level lighting controls. These controls give occupants the ability to use all of the light, some of the light, or none of the light in an area. There are specific control steps depending on what type of light is installed. Shutoff controls automatically turn off or reduce light output when the space is normally vacant. They form the third layer of control required under the energy standards. Shutoff controls include time-based control devices as well as occupancy controls. Automatic daylighting controls automatically control lighting in daylight areas, dimming the lighting when sufficient daylight is available. These controls may be required depending on your building design, and they form the fourth control layer in a space. The last control layer consists of demand-responsive controls. These controls are capable of receiving and automatically responding to a demand response signal sent from a utility or third-party program implementer. Demand-responsive controls allow you to reduce your lighting load when electricity prices are temporarily raised or the electricity supply in your area is critically low. Additional lighting controls can also be installed voluntarily to achieve credits or power adjustment factor allowances against the total installed lighting power of a project. Lighting power density of building space types is capped under the prescriptive compliance approach in the energy standards. Installation of additional lighting controls will further reduce the overall energy consumption of the lighting system, so credit is given for these measures, allowing building owners and designers to add some additional lighting in the space if needed. Power adjustment factors are available for 4 specific control measures, which go beyond the mandatory measures contained in the energy standards. Daylight dimming plus off, occupant sensing controls used in large open plan offices, institutional tuning, and demand-responsive controls used in buildings less than 10,000 square feet. More information on these control strategies is provided in the other modules of the video series and in section 140.6 of the standards. Now that we've learned about lighting control devices and systems, let's go over a few requirements for lighting control devices and systems and briefly review acceptance testing. Lighting control systems may be installed for compliance with the lighting control requirements contained in the 2016 Building Energy Efficiency Standards, provided they meet certain requirements. The energy standards contain lighting control requirements in sections 130.0 through 130.5, sections 140.6 through 140.8, section 141.0, and section 150K of the energy standards. These sections specify when and where lighting controls are required and how they must operate. Lighting controls installed to comply with the energy standards must meet all applicable requirements for the lighting control application for which they are installed. For a lighting control system to be recognized for compliance with the lighting control requirements in the energy standards, including an energy management control system acting as a lighting control, the system must be documented on the appropriate certificates of compliance and installation. Lastly, the energy standards require that automatic daylight controls, shutoff controls, demand-responsive controls, institutional tuning controls, and outdoor controls undergo acceptance testing after installation and prior to issuance of an occupancy permit. Acceptance test requirements are detailed in section 130.4 of the Energy Standards and Non-Residential Reference Appendix 7. For more information on acceptance testing, watch Series 1 of this video series on the Energy Commission website. Now we will cover commissioning requirements. Commissioning is required for all newly constructed non-residential buildings to ensure that the controls operate as planned and expected by the building owner. Under the energy standards, commissioning requirements will vary based on the size of your building and the type of project. For newly constructed buildings, some level of commissioning is always required for compliance. For additions and alterations, commissioning is not required under the standards. If your newly constructed building is 10,000 square feet or larger, lighting systems and controls must be included in the commissioning process. The lighting system must undergo functional performance testing in accordance with the acceptance test requirements contained in section 130.4, and results must be included in the commissioning report. And the lighting system design specifications and commissioning specifications must be documented in construction drawings and in multiple commissioning reports. Specific requirements include a summary of commissioning requirements, documentation of owner's requirements, a report on the basis of design, a design phase review schedule, commissioning plans and documentation, functional testing, and system training for building operators or owners. More information on all of these requirements can be found in section 120.8 of the Energy Standards. For buildings less than 10,000 square feet, only a few of these commissioning measures are required for compliance with the standards. Project teams must conduct a design phase review and include commissioning measures on construction documents. Also, while functional performance testing does not need to be documented as part of the commissioning process described in Section 120.8, acceptance tests must still be conducted per Section 130.4 in order to gain an occupancy permit. Before we end this module, let's review what we've learned. Lighting control products installed in California buildings must meet product-specific requirements contained in the appliance efficiency regulations and other performance and application-specific requirements contained in the energy efficiency standards. Lighting controls installed to comply with the energy standards must be documented on certificates of compliance, installation, and acceptance. There are 5 primary types of lighting controls required by the standards: area controls, multi-level controls, shut-off controls, automatic daylighting controls, and demand response controls. These 5 types are mandatory, but other voluntary control systems can be installed to earn a power adjustment factor, which gives designers and building owners some flexibility to install additional lighting in a space. Lighting controls require commissioning to function properly. Commissioning is required under the energy standards for newly constructed buildings. Specific requirements depend on the size of the project. This concludes Module 1. For more information on non-residential lighting controls, please visit the Energy Commission website at www.energy.ca.gov/Title 24/2016 standards.